Hey everyone, and welcome back to another week of Open Mic Night. So glad you guys made it. Stick around tonight because we're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff, a lot of really cool, interesting things like Plex Media Server and password managers, and even a really good tip for you Chrome users out there. So stick around. I think it'll be a fun show. All right, like I said, welcome back to another week of Open Mic Night. Again, I'm just so glad that you guys made it back for another week. Whether you guys are listening on WLMN radio, or you're watching me on YouTube, or you're listening to the podcast version, welcome. My name is Mike Weger, and I'm your host, and this is my weekly tech show where I give you guys some news, I give you guys some tips, I give you guys some tricks, and I listen to you guys. I take your guys' questions via call-in, via the chat room, however you guys want to get a hold of me, and I answer them, and we just talk tech for, about between 30 minutes to an hour each week. And so, like I said, I'm so glad you guys are back. First things first is I want to tell you guys about an update. You guys know that I stream exclusively to YouTube, is where I host my videos. But other than that, I stream on WLMNradio.com. So if you guys want to go head over there and check them out, they're out of Grafton, West Virginia, and they are an entire radio station. They broadcast on FM, and they also stream online, and they have got a ton of good music, but more importantly, more relating to me, I guess, is they are bringing in a ton of amazing tech talent. And if you guys head over there and you guys are watching, especially Monday through Friday, in the nighttime and in the morning, but at night times kind of when they rerun my show and some other tech shows, you guys are going to get some fantastic tech news over on WLMN Radio. And they're starting to redo the site a little bit, so they're starting to go from Flash-based to some HTML stuff. So it's really coming along, a fantastic website. Go check them out. I've started a great relationship with Roger over there, the owner, and him and I, he's always giving me great ideas, and we're kind of bouncing ideas back and forth off each other. So he's kind of my inspiration to start doing some of this fun new stuff, like taking call-ins and taking your questions and have a chat room and stuff like that. So glad to partner with them, but go over and check them out. That's WLMNradio.com. Give them a shot. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about tonight, actually, I don't have any news tonight. I decided, it was a kind of a slow news week in general. I didn't want to cover a lot of, rumors and stuff like that. So I decided to have an action-packed episode full of kind of tips and tricks and things that I think are important that maybe I haven't had time to talk about with you guys in the past. So that's why this episode's a little bit different, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and maybe sort of kind of what I want to do in the future is do maybe a little less news and a little more tips and tricks. That's if I can find the content to give you guys. But the first thing I want to talk to you guys about tonight is password managers. And actually, before I do that, I do want to let you guys know, I'm going to put it up here, and I'm going to kind of leave it up here. If you guys want to call into the show, if you guys want to call in and be on the show, if you have a question for me, if you have a comment about anything we are doing, and actually let me get that to stick up here real quick. All right, now it should stick up there, and the number should stay up there, unlike last week when it went away and you guys didn't know the phone number. But if you guys want to call in, I will answer your guys' questions, or I'll take your comments. If you guys think I'm saying something that's kind of fun, you guys want to chat with me, definitely call in. I love an interactive audience, and so if you guys call in, I will put you on the show. All I ask is that, this is a family-friendly show, so keep it family-friendly, keep it clean, but have fun, and let's talk some tech. So at any time during the show, if you want to call in at any time, if I'm in the middle of a story, that's fine. You can interrupt and call in. And that number is, for you guys on the podcast channel, I'm sorry, I know you guys will be listening to this after the fact, but for those of you maybe just listening to audio, the number is 402-413-0067. Again, 402-413-0067. Call in and let me know what you guys think. But like I said, so the first thing I'm talking to you guys about today is password managers. So what is a password manager? A password manager is an application, and there's a ton of them out there. I mean, absolutely a ton, and I'll start to get into kind of a list of them here in a little bit. But what they do is they manage all of your different passwords to all of the different websites or services that you guys use. Now, you guys know that, they always tell you out there, don't use the same password for everything. It's insecure, and if someone has that one password, if they're able to hack you into one account, they'll be able to get into all of your other accounts. And so a password manager is a great way to be able to keep track of all your different passwords. Now, I used for a while, I don't currently use actually a password manager because I kind of have my own password system that I've kind of developed that I think is pretty easy for me, and I'll tell you guys about that a little bit, but first I want to talk about how you use a password manager. So I used one called LastPass, LastPass, LastPass. There's also a really popular one on the Mac side called 1Password. I use LastPass. LastPass is available on, Mac, Windows, anything. And what they do is pretty much, it's usually a plugin extension to your browser. So if you're on Safari or Chrome, whatever browser you're using, you can download the application and it runs through your browser. And then every time you go to a website that you log in with, the plugin will say, hey, do you want me to remember this password for you? And you can either click yes or no. And then these applications, they start to build up all of your passwords. And you can go into a password manager, a password vault, pretty much is what they call it on LastPass. It's a vault full of all your passwords. And they also have a really cool thing like form savers. So if you enter the same credit card information, or if you're entering your same address every time maybe you buy something online and you have it shipped to you and you pay with a credit card, it can save all these little forms that you can just use LastPass or whatever application you're using to fill out the form for you really quick. And that's kind of a fun one. That was actually the main reason I use LastPass, was for those, to fill in the forms, because I do order a lot of stuff online. Most of my shopping is done online. But I think what the biggest feature for these password managers are, and I think a lot of people actually don't use the biggest feature of these managers, is the ability to create a very long and complex password. So obviously for us humans, we cannot remember a very long chain of random numbers and letters and stuff like that. But the nice thing about it is certain applications can remember stuff like that. And so when you have an application like LastPass, what you can do is you can say, hey, for this account, make me a really, really long, complicated password, and then save it. Well, the nice part is with the password manager, we don't then have to remember those passwords. LastPass remembers that password for us and plugs it in. I'm going to get the phone thing back up here real quick. All right, so the phone system's back up. But pretty much what that does is it makes your passwords way more secure. Because a lot of us, if we all admit it, we're using pretty simple passwords. Maybe it's a word, maybe it's a name, and then maybe followed by some numbers. And those sadly are becoming easier and easier to hack, because usually that word can be found in a dictionary, or it's a common name or something like that, and then they can throw combinations of numbers or letters and stuff like that. And so if you have your password manager application create you a very long password and then have it remember it, then you are set and you are golden. So password managers are great and they're fantastic and they work really well for certain situations. Now, I will admit that the one reason that I kind of stopped using my password manager was that I do a lot of stuff on my phone or my iPad. And yes, there are apps that you can put on your iPad and iPhone. Usually LastPass has an app and stuff like that. But when it came to logging in to, let's say, my bank app, I don't go online to the webpage. I just use my bank app. Copying passwords, you have to open your password manager, you have to copy your password and put it in. Because the whole point is that I have these really long, complicated passwords, so I don't remember them. So I have to go in and copy it and then paste it into my app. And so it became very clunky for me to have to use this password manager because I'm on mobile all the time. And so that's kind of the one downside to the password managers, is that on mobile they're a little clunky. Now I know that is simply an iOS downfall. I know that on Android and a lot of other systems that it works great, and that is because the apps can actually talk to each other. And so your LastPass app or your 1Password app can actually go in and just put in that password for you, and that was a limitation on iOS. Now the great thing for iOS, and what might get me back into using a password manager, is that iOS 8 is actually going to have the ability to have apps talk to each other. And so they've already started looking at some prototypes and some betas of, I think it was maybe 1Password. I can't remember the app, but someone actually already made an iOS version of their app. And what they did was they went in and they said, okay, let this app talk to this other app. And so in iOS 8, you're actually going to be able to have these apps talk to each other, and it's going to be a lot easier to use your password manager, to use that password manager with your other apps on your iPhone. So when iOS 8 comes out, and that should be coming out around between September 9th and 17th, I would say. September 9th is the iPhone announcement. Usually they give it about a week for their new iOS to come out. And so watch for that, and I will give you guys an update. But so a password manager is a great thing. And there's someone in the chat room saying, scary, what happens if the vault gets hacked? And actually, these password managers have incredibly strong encryption. And actually, we have a phone call coming in right now, and so I'm going to pause real quick on this story, and we're going to pick up the phone call and see who we have here.
So when Iowa State comes out, and that should
Hey, this is Mike. Who's this?
September 9th and 17th, I would say. September 9th.
Hello, Mike.
Hey, how's it going? Who's this?
Hey, pretty good. This is Roger from WLMN Radio. How are you?
Good. How are you? You're live on the air.
Great, great. I have a quick question about the new iOS. What is it going to have the facial identification feature?
I don't believe so. It's not rumored yet. And I think Apple has kind of with their fingerprint, with their Touch ID, is their kind of fingerprint readers in all their new devices. I think they want to go more with the fingerprint than facial recognition. I know that a lot of reports were coming out that, Apple really didn't like how, on Android, facial recognition did happen. It was an option, it still is, but it was very clunky and didn't work very well. So Apple tends to go with things that are pretty rock solid, something they can rely on. And Touch ID, I think, is where they went with security instead of facial recognition.
I see. Very, very detailed. Okay, I greatly appreciate that because I'm pretty excited about what all features and as far as that facial app, what exactly, if and what it was going to consist of, and if it was going to be on there or not.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to go ahead.
No, yeah, go keep going.
I just wanted to, let you know that you're doing a great show and a great broadcast, and I invite anybody to call in and ask any questions whatsoever because Mike's very knowledgeable in this field. And, tune in every week for the latest and greatest in tech news.
Well, thank you very much, Roger. It's great talking to you.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Roger. Very exciting. Got our first call. So that's how easy it is, you guys. If you guys want to call in, just like Roger did, call in and talk to me about stuff. I love questions like that. I love talking about Apple-related news and stuff like that. So call in. That was fantastic. That's exactly what I want from my audience. So thank you, Roger, for being the first one and stepping up and doing that. And so back to what I was saying was that, someone in the chat room said, Scary, what if my vault gets hacked? What if my password manager gets hacked? They have really strong encryption both up and down, and that means getting to your password vault and getting back down to your computer or whatever device. It's an encrypted line. And so these password vaults, it would be extremely hard to actually hack into those, and they haven't had any problems yet. They're on top of their security game. That's kind of their job. It's kind of their expertise. And so if you can really trust anyone with your passwords, you can trust them. And honestly, trusting them is probably a much better option than trusting your simple password that you've been using before. And so actually, but that brings up a really good point that I forgot to mention about the password managers, and that is the whole thing about the password manager is that every time you open your browser, you click on the plugin. So you click on, let's say, LastPass for me, and you enter your one password. So you only have to remember one password. It's your master vault password. And so you can make that a really strong password that you will remember. And then once you log in, then that gives you access to all your passwords. And so I didn't mention that earlier. And so thank you for bringing that up in the chat room because it's a good point. And, so if someone steals your computer and opens it up, they're not going to have access to all your passwords just because you have that installed. Every time you open up your browser, you do have to log into your application with a main password, a main thing that you set, and that gives you access to the rest. So I hope that answers your question for that person in the chat room. Thank you for the question. And so the one thing I did want to talk to you guys about, if you guys don't want to use a password manager, and that's fine, I do have some tips for you guys on how to create a really strong password and one that will work with most websites. Websites have a lot of different requirements. They have, capital letter, lowercase letter, and then some numbers, and usually it has to be like between 8 and 12 digits and something like that. And so I'm going to tell you what I did. And so what I did was I created a completely random 6 string of letters, something that I can remember. I don't know. It's literally completely random letters. And so, you could find a little, a row on your keyboard and do something like that. Or think of 5 letters in a random order that you can remember. And I know that's hard and I know it's not a word, but if you can really get that down, if you can get a 5 random letter sequence down, And so that's what I do. I get my five random letter sequence, and then I capitalize the first one because that makes my capital letter. And then what I do is for different styles of websites, I have different, 2 to 4 digit numbers I put on the end. So I remember that same 5-letter thing. Let's just say it's, ASDFG. Okay, so ASDFG, and that's actually on the keyboard there. So that's your 5-letter thing. I capitalize the A, and what I do is I put numbers on the end that are meaningful to me. So numbers that would mean something to me, birthdays of friends, something as simple as an address. But what it does is that 5-letter random letter thing is actually pretty hard to crack because it's random. It's not in the dictionary. They can't just do a dictionary attack and blast your account that way because it's completely random. It's not a real word. And then you're capitalizing a letter, and then you're throwing random numbers on the end to make it even stronger. And, don't use your birthday, and obviously don't use like your social security thing, and don't use things like that. Don't use your address. Maybe use a friend's address, or maybe use something, just a number that's meaningful to you. And what I do is I have about 5 or 6 different numbers at the end. And so for each style of website, is it a social media website? Is it a money website? For each section of website, I use the same number at the end. And so in my head, if I'm forgetting my password, I'm gonna be like, well, what kind of site is this? Oh, it's a social media site. I use this number at the end of my same 5-letter code. So that is simply my suggestion for how to do a password. But the really important part is that you have random letters and numbers that don't mean anything, that are complete gibberish. They're not any word, not any phrase, and there are no numbers that are associated directly to you. Because someone who's hacking you might know that it's your dog's name and then your birth month at the end. And they're going to try all of those. They're going to try your address. They're going to try simple stuff like that. And if they're really motivated, they could probably figure it out if it's something. So make sure your passwords are completely random. And this is if you don't want to use the password generator on a password manager application. Make sure they're just completely random, and then you have numbers and letters. And if you want special characters, exclamation points, pound signs, asterisks, anything like that just makes it that much more complicated. But I want to tell you kind of my system, because a lot of people are like, well, I can't remember 6 different passwords. Well, it becomes a lot easier if you have the same beginning and then a different end. And that same beginning, if it's completely random, that really, really does help. And so that's my system. Feel free to take it or leave it, but it's just some password help, I guess, for you guys that I want to kind of pass along and give to you. And so that's it kind of for the passwords. I'm kind of going to move on to the next segment here. But if you guys have any questions at all on your password manager, if you guys are looking to get into one and you want some recommendations, if you guys have it and you have questions, it's not working for you, feel free to email me. My email is mike@uyghurtech.com. And I really do love answering questions on that account. And so if you guys have any questions, just let me know at that email. Also, you can head over to uyghurtech.com, WIEGER tech.com. And there you can find all of my tutorials and stuff like that. But you can also, there's a contact me form. If you don't want to send an email, you can do it that way. Stuff like that. So there's a million ways to reach me. Even Twitter at Uyghur Tech, WIEGERTECH.com. So I'll put that phone number back up there. And also, if you guys are just a listener and you want to say hi, or if you have a tip, I love user tips, or if you guys have, a question that you want fixed and me to tell you about it on the air, my favorite thing about all the podcasts that I listen to are when I start to hear tips. And a lot of those tips come from those podcasters' community. Those communities send in maybe an audio comment. So maybe if you want to record yourself with a comment and you want to send it to me, I'll put it on the air. Or if you guys have something that you thought was really cool that you did with your Mac or your iPhone, or I guess your Windows computer, I guess I'll accept those too. If you guys have any of those, just go ahead and send them on over to me because I love stuff like that. And it's fantastic. So again, keep calling in. We had one caller earlier, and I really liked it. The number is 402-413-0067. Give me a call. Interrupt me. It is completely fine. For those of you watching on, obviously, YouTube later, you can't call me. You can. I guess that number will still ring into my computer, but you won't be live on the air. Sorry for you guys watching later and not watching live right now, but watch live. I guess I should mention that now. Tuesday nights, right now, when I'm recording, Tuesday nights at 7, it's live over on uyghurtech.com/live. Very cool. All right, so the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is actually pretty exciting. I want to talk to you guys about Audible.com. Audible.com, I drive around in my car a lot for work, and I've had the same job for the last, I think, 3 years now. Drive around in my car a lot, And, I listen to podcasts like I told you, but I also listen to audiobooks. And audiobooks are just the best. I think it's a great way to consume a book. I don't have a lot of extra time to read. I'm in law school. So first of all, I do all my reading for law school. I don't really want to read beyond that. And then I don't just have time to sit down and read a book like I wish I did. And so listening to a book is fantastic. For me, I'm not a fast reader. But when you listen to a book, when you're just driving, when you're cleaning, it's a whole different experience. And it's almost like a play or a movie going on in your head. And it's just really cool. If you guys have never listened to an audiobook, check them out. They're great. And so I want to talk about my first sponsor for the night, and it's audible.com. So head on over to Audible Trial, AUDIBLE trial.com/WegerTech, audibletrial.com/WegerTech, and that will give you guys a 30-day free trial. So sign up for free. It's completely free. So go over there, and when you sign up for a free trial, you will get to try Audible, and it really helps me out. It tells them that, my listeners are heading over there and trying them out. And you get a free book with that. And so you can download any book and kind of give it a shot. This is how I got started on Audible. I listened to Leo over on Twit, and he suggested audible.com. So I went and I used his free trial that he gave out, and I haven't really gone back. And so after that, you can subscribe monthly, and there's all different plans and stuff like that. But you get either a book a month or 2 books a month. And like I said, if you guys just haven't tried it, give it a shot. And there are tons of titles over on Audible. I can't even think of how many. I mean, I'm sure the number's out there, but there's tons. The Steve Jobs biography by Walter Isaacson, fantastic. I read that. I listened/read that on Audible. I don't know what you call it. I call it reading, because I am. I'm ingesting the entire book, even though I'm listening to it. And so yeah, just try them out. Just go. It's free. It's absolutely free. It's a free 30-day trial. So what's the harm in trying? But head on over to audibletrial.com/WegerTech. Give them a shot. I really think you guys will like them. And like I said, it gets you a free month, and it really helps me out. So that is Audible. We want to thank them for their sponsorship of Open Mic Night and of just WegerTech in general. They're kind of a general WegerTech sponsor. And if you guys are watching on my site right now, if you guys don't want to type in that URL, you can actually just click on the box that's right above me. I know if you're watching on YouTube, it's not here. But if you're on my website, it's right above me. There's 2 up there, and I'll talk about the next sponsor next week. And so the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is SSDs. And again, I need to get my phone system back up just in case anyone else wants to talk. And so, I'm going to talk about SSDs. And for those of you guys who know, that's a solid state drive. So when in your computer, you have a hard drive, and it is either a spindle drive, an old-fashioned spindle drive, and usually they're bigger and thicker, or you have a solid state drive, SSD. And the SSDs are the newer ones. So I'm guessing unless you've bought a computer in the last, I'd say 1.5 to 2 years, you probably don't have an SSD installed unless you did it by yourself. And so I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about this because I realized the magic of an SSD about 2 weeks ago, and I was blown away. And so what happens in a traditional hard drive, what I call a spindle drive, is that there are actual moving components. And so there's moving components in there, and those can start to slow down. And just because of the fact that they're mechanical, they're going to be a little bit slow. And then over time, they gradually just, they slow down. And so I had my MacBook, my laptop that I got when I went to college back in 2009, which is crazy. I can't believe it's been that long. It's already 2014. Crazy. But what you can do is you can go in. So on my MacBook, I went in, and it's really simple on the Mac, and it's really simple. Actually, it's even simpler on the Windows side. Someone just made a comment that they love their Windows machine and that they'll order themselves a Mac soon. Well, actually, in this case, it might actually be easier for you to replace what I'm talking about. What you're going to do is if you go in and take out that old spindle drive and put in an SSD, a solid state drive, and the one I got a Samsung brand. So solid state drives, there's no moving parts is the difference. There's just no moving parts, and so it's a ton faster. There's a lot of other tech side to that I won't get into, but just know that it is about, for me, the performance I saw was about 7 times faster on my old drive. And so what you can do is you can go in and put in this SSD and replace your old hard drive. Now, what I would suggest, if you guys are thinking about doing this and you guys have a bunch of questions, because it's kind of the actual process of physically taking out the hard drive and putting in the new one, that's not hard. What the hard part is kind of making sure you have the new operating system installed and moving over files. So if you guys have any questions, it just went away. But email me, Mike@WegerTech.com, and say, hey, Mike, put in the subject line, like replacing my hard drive, and I will kind of walk you through step by step how to replace that hard drive and what you need to do. I was going to make a YouTube tutorial video on it, and I still might, but it's kind of actually a complicated, long process, and depending on if you're running Windows or Mac, it's different. And so I just decided that if you guys have questions, if you guys want to replace your hard drive and you have questions, just send me an email, mike@uyghurtech.com. That's the easiest way. And so my experience with this, though, like I said, on my old laptop, which actually, so when you have a hard drive connector, it's called a SATA connector, and there's SATA 1, 2, and 3. And as you go up, SATA 3 is the fastest connection. It's a really fast connection to your computer. And then as you go down, SATA 2 and SATA 1 are slower. Well, this old MacBook I have actually only has a SATA 2 connector. And so my hard drive is actually giving me the max speed I can get from this connector. So I actually can't even even if I paid for a way faster drive, I couldn't use it. This drive could actually be a lot faster if I put it in a newer machine. And that's actually something I'm doing. Last week, there was a lot of kind of sputtering on the video, I noticed, kind of choppiness and stuff like that. And my hard drive is giving me a lot of trouble lately. So in my iMac, my production machine, right over here, the machine I run this whole show on, I'm actually going to put an SSD in that soon. And I'm really excited because I think that'll really beef up my performance. But yeah, check out the solid state drives because it increased my performance. The boot time, when you say boot time, it's from the time you hit your power button to the time you are on your desktop and ready to go. And that will, I would say, I think my old boot time was all close to 4 minutes, 3.5 to 4 minutes. My boot time now is just under a minute. So from the time I hit my power button to when it comes up, it's just under a minute. And for an old computer, and it's not really old, I mean, it's 2009, but for an older computer, that's really good. And it is faster than the day I bought it. So I put a clean install of the operating system. I deleted all my old stuff. I put it on an old hard drive, a USB hard drive that I can get if I need that data. But I put a new operating system on it and a SSD, and it's just screaming fast. Love it. And it's going to get this computer through my next 2 years of law school, and that's what I needed. The hard drive was going so slow, and it took about a minute and a half to open Microsoft Word, and it was just going so slow. And so I needed this computer to get me through the rest of law school because my laptop is the one I take to class, and putting the SSD in there was the best decision I have ever made. When you guys are looking for SSD, if you guys are going to do this, first of all, I'd suggest Amazon like I always do because I buy everything on Amazon. And I would really suggest the Samsung Evo series, especially for if you just have a home computer. Samsung has a higher end model if you do a lot of graphic intensive stuff. I didn't even get the more expensive one. I think that's more for main production computers. But the Samsung Evo series, if you just put in Amazon Samsung Evo, I got a 250 gig SSD for I want to say $118, which is actually really good. They've gone down in price a lot. Back in the day, about a year and a half ago, that was going to cost you $500, if not more. So they've gone down in price a lot, about 50 cents a gig. But be careful of really cheap SSDs. The way that certain SSDs compress your files and the way they read and write, they're not going to be as fast as certain SSDs. So I would say go for the higher end on the SSD. If you're getting a 250 gig, you should just go by the basis of you should be paying at least probably 50 cents a gig. And so for however many gigs you're buying, if you're buying a 250, so $118 to $125, that's about the price range you want to be in because the lower end ones, they can go out on you. They're not as well made. But I would strongly advise, just suggest the Samsung Evo. That's what I went with on my MacBook, and I couldn't be happier. It is just fantastic. So yeah, check out SSDs, do some Googling, go out there. But I just kind of want to bring it up to you guys because a lot of people say, I have an old computer, and I don't know what I can do to make it faster. Well, first of all, I would do the SSD and then do RAM. And so, but start out with the SSD, get a new hard drive because that's usually going to give you the most dramatic speed bump, at least that you will notice. And it'll be dramatic. Trust me. You'll be like, oh my gosh, blazing fast. I love it. And so that's what I want to tell you about SSDs. And so again, I just want to invite you guys to call in or get into the chat room. Let's see, I have one thing from the chat room right here. Do you happen to know why computers are lightning fast when I first get them, but then slow down as they age? I never changed the insides of them or anything like that. And so great question. This comes back to two things, really. So an old spindle drive, which I'm guessing is what you have. If you have an older computer, that's what you have. Like I said, they're mechanical parts. And just like your car or just like, your lawnmower, anything that's mechanical is going to start to wear out as the time goes on. And so as time goes on, the spinning parts, the part that's reading and writing all the data to your disk, there's physical, disk that it's writing to in your hard drive. It's hard to imagine they fit all that in this tiny little machine, but they do in this tiny little box. But those gears, those things start to wear out. And so it's just over time. It's just like anything, and just like anything, you're going to need to replace it. I'd say about every 5 to 6 years. If you're really intensive on your computer, replace it every maybe 3-4 years, but 5 to 7, maybe more. If you guys are starting to notice the slowdowns, go with that. But the next thing that really slows down your computer, and this is something you can do if you don't want to spend a lot of money, if you want to spend no money. What I did with my MacBook from time to time is I would back up all the files I needed. So I got an external USB hard drive, and I took all my files over there. And then what I did was I did a clean install. What that means is I completely erased the hard drive. And if you guys need to know how to do that, again, just email me, mike@weagertech.com. If you guys need help ever erasing, I know it can be really scary, erasing a hard drive and doing stuff like that. So if you have any questions, send your emails over. But what you're going to do is you're going to completely clean off the hard drive, and you're going to install the operating system again, just like it was when you first got your computer. Because although you're not changing the inside parts, although you're not going into the computer, every time you add an application, every time, even when you go to a website, you're getting cookies on your computer, stuff like that. But every time you add an application, change a setting, every time you upgrade your operating system, so when you upgrade, let's say, when I went from, I think it was Lion to Mavericks, and now from Mavericks, when Yosemite comes out, every time you upgrade, it adds in a bunch of stuff, and it leaves stuff behind on the hard drive that's not really needed. So it takes up extra space that's not needed, and there's extra processes that are running that don't really need to be. There's just a lot, they call it cruff. There's a lot of cruff left behind, and so every time you install an application, it puts a bunch of stuff on there that is needed for the application, but maybe you don't use that application anymore. Maybe you deleted it, and stuff's left behind. There's just a lot of junk that can build up, is what I'm trying to say. So to answer your question, there's just a lot of junk that builds up over the years. And so for me, that really did help out my computer. So if you don't want to put a new hard drive in your computer, I would suggest wiping the hard drive and reinstalling the operating system, but obviously make sure to back up. Very important. Back up your stuff. Don't lose any of your important data. But back up your entire hard drive and then reinstall the OS, and then you can bring over the files that you want and kind of start fresh. It's a really good feeling, actually. It feels really good. I know I'm a tech hoarder, and not only in the sense of hardware, I like to hoard hardware. I also like to keep all of my old data files. I have hard drives and hard drives of stuff, but that's fine. You can buy external hard drives and fill them up and put them in a cupboard. They don't need to be actually running on your computer. So great question. Thank you for the chat room. I love this. This is great. This is what Open Mic Night, this is what I wanted it to be, is more interactive and stuff like that. So keep the questions coming. This is great. Fantastic. So type your questions in the chat room or definitely call in on the number that's right below here. Alrighty. So moving on from SSDs is what I told you guys last week I was going to talk to you guys about. And this is fun. This for me is total. Now we might get a little nerdy in these next, 10 minutes. It might get a little nerdy, but I promise I'll try it. We'll keep it simple, but it's going to get fun and nerdy. So be ready. But I want to talk to you guys about Plex Media Server. Now, what is Plex Media Server? I am sure that you guys have a collection somewhere of either music, photos, videos, maybe TV shows, maybe you have some recordings of TV shows, stuff like that. And what I had was I had a bunch of DVDs that had built up on my my counter or whatever, my cupboard. I had a bunch of DVDs that were sitting there. And what I found was I never really went back and, it's lazy, but I never took the time to walk over to the cupboard, open it, scroll through, find a DVD. And anymore now, besides my Xbox, I don't even have a DVD player. I just have my Xbox because I watch everything online or I watch it on cable or whatever like that. And so what I did was I took all those DVDs and I burned them to my computer. I ripped them to my computer. Or maybe you guys already have movies that you have on your computer in movie files or TV shows or photos. So what I did was I took all of those files. I took all of my movies and I dumped them onto a hard drive. And what Plex Media Server does, so what Plex Media Server is you install the server software on a computer in your house. So for me, I would suggest doing it on a computer that maybe is a desktop, something that's always on, something that's always on your network. So I put it on my iMac, I installed Plex Media Server, and it is literally as simple as saying, hey, here is the folder of all my movies. Here's the folder of all my photos, and here's the folder of all my, music and my TV shows. And you point Plex Media Server to that, and Plex Media Server in the background does some amazing, amazing stuff. What it does is it goes out and gets, the image that's on the front of the DVD. Yeah, Plex goes out and finds that and brings it down. It goes out and finds the description, the ratings, the main actors, all of that stuff. It goes out, and you don't even have to tell it what the name of the movie is. Plex just knows. It goes and it searches through the movie, and it finds pretty much what the movie is. The title of the file doesn't even have to be the title of the movie. You can name it whatever. I literally have a folder full of movies that are just named random stuff. But Plex is really, really smart. And so the way you can do is on your network. So this computer is on the network. It's on your Wi-Fi. It's wired in. However it's connected to your network. Well, then if you have an iPad or an iPhone, you can get the Plex app, and then you can stream those movies or those TV shows or that music wherever you are in your house to that device. So the Plex Media Server, what it does is it takes that movie and it transcodes it and sends it over your network to whatever device you want to watch it on. And it's really, really cool because now I find myself, when I'm laying in bed at night and I have my iPad and, actually I have time for a movie. I just go to and it has my entire library of movies accessible to me whenever I want. Fantastic. And actually, if you pay for the premium service, which I think is like $3.99 on Plex, if you pay the $3.99, you can actually access your movies from like outside your house. So I'm at my friend's house. As long as you have internet and you can connect, it'll connect to your home computer and send those videos over the internet, and you can watch them on your device. Really cool. And along with that premium service, the one really cool thing is, let's say I'm getting ready to go on a trip. I grab my iPad, I grab my Plex app, and I say, hey, download this movie, this TV show, and it downloads them to my device, and I can go on an airplane and watch them. And it's super quick, super easy. It's just fantastic. My whole life was changed after I had Plex Media Server. And so what I want to show you guys, though, is what I did is I put a Plex application on my Raspberry Pi. Last week I talked to you guys about the Raspberry Pi. And if you guys remember, it has an HDMI port. And so I plugged that HDMI into my computer, and this is what happens. This is kind of a shaky video, so sorry about that. It's bad quality. Let's see here. Where did it go? Okay. So right here, this is kind of a video of my TV, and this is what Plex looks like. And so this is the movie section. But then when you go back to your main menu, you can actually go through your photos, and you can kind of see there on the left. You can have TV shows, all that stuff. And Plex is just fantastic. I mean, I can't nerd out on this enough with you. But really the power of Plex is that it, like I told you, it transcodes the video and sends it over the network to your device in a format and in a way that your device can read and in a size that is acceptable. You're not going to have a lot of buffering is the best part about Plex. A lot of times when you're watching movies, it's going to buffer and stop and buffer and stop. Well, Plex is really good at transcoding on the fly, being quick and adaptive. Oh, man. I literally can't say enough good things about it. Get the phone thing back up. I need to make sure I turn this computer to not fall asleep on me, because that's what making that fall asleep. Sorry if you guys just called in a little bit because my computer was asleep, but I think it would have still rang in. So yeah, Plex Media Server, simply fantastic. If you guys have any questions, again, just email me or get on my website, because I know that Plex application on the Raspberry Pi is a little complicated getting that installed. But if you have the Plex app on an iPad, or you can even watch it on another computer, you can log in through the web and watch it. If you guys have a lot of files, if you have a lot of music or photos or movies, just try Plex. Give it a shot. Download it on a computer and see. And the great thing about it, too, is it doesn't use a lot of your computer's resources. Actually, I have Plex Server running right now on my computer, and it doesn't have anything. So it doesn't affect my performance. I can edit and I can do everything, and it doesn't affect it. Okay, so we do have one question in the chat room. I want to do this question. Do I need to go out and buy all the upgraded movies that have the digital format and DVD included? I don't have a Blu-ray player, so I just have the old DVD format. Great question. So the question really, what they're asking is, how do I get the digital format? How do I get the movie onto my computer? Because obviously I only have a DVD. So there's kind of a lot of debate on what's legal and what's not. I will kind of throw that out there. But what's kind of come out is that if you are using it only for personal use, if you're not sharing this, so as long as you're not giving your password to your Plex to your friends to use wherever they are, as long as you're not sharing these movies on the internet, most of the time it is okay to rip, what it's called, it's ripping the DVD to your computer. And so there's an application called Handbrake, and you can go get it on the internet. It's free. And maybe I'll put a link to that in the show notes after the show. But if you go and get the Handbrake application, you can actually put the DVD in your computer and then run the Handbrake application, and it will create a movie file on your computer of your DVD. And so that is how you do that. So yes, no, you do not need to go upgrade. You do not need to go out and get the digital format. And actually, most of the time, those digital formats are copyright protected through, most of the time you download, it gives you a code, download them through iTunes. And the one downside I will say about Plex is that you can't put iTunes movies that you bought on iTunes, you actually can't run them in Plex. Plex cannot, it doesn't have permissions to play those. And so I just, from now on, I'm just going to buy the DVD and rip the DVD to my computer and use it for my own personal use. So don't go out and break any laws. Don't go sell these digital files or anything like that. But as long as you're only using them for your personal use, you should be fine. But I'll leave it up to you, to your discretion. Research the laws in your area. I'll say that. Just look up the laws in your area to see what they are, but you should be fine. So, sounds like my audio went out for just a little bit, or maybe my video. Sorry about that. Like I said, with my SSD, I think next week it'll all be fixed with my SSD. I'm recording the show while I stream it and all this stuff, so my hard drive's taking a massive hit. And so sorry if there's lag. Sorry if there's spots in here that are jumping in and out. But yeah, so that is Plex Media Server. Google Plex Media Server, and you can go get the downloads. It is completely free, which is crazy. That's the part maybe I didn't mention. It is completely free to do this. So if you want to give it a shot, it's worth it. Just go and install it and see how well it works, see if it works for you, see if it's something that you'll use. It was something that I didn't know if I'd use too much, but I absolutely love it. Wouldn't go back. And so I always want to share things with you that kind of change my life and how I use technology, and so that's a fun one. Okay, so the final thing I want to talk to you guys about, I know the show's going a little bit long tonight, but that's okay. We've had some fun. We've had some interaction with the chat room and some call-ins. That's a good time. So the final thing I want to talk to you guys about is a tip that I use for the Chrome browser. So if any of you guys use the Chrome browser, some of you guys might use Safari or Internet Explorer or Firefox. I've started to use Chrome more and more, and so if you use Chrome, there's kind of a cool little trick you can do with your bookmark manager and your bookmark bar. And I actually learned this from my buddy Colin Ball, so credit to him. He taught me this back in college, and something that I never really thought to share. But I'm going to kind of open it up here. Let's see here. All right. So when you are in Chrome, you have your bookmark bar in the top little section there. Oh, and my logo is going to get in the way. Here, let's move that out. Okay, so you can see my menu bar and all of those favorites, my bookmarks in my bookmark bar. And you can see that for me, it's just the icon and not the name. There's no name next to them. Usually what it says is, the icon and then what's next to it. And so I'm going to kind of play that again because I was kind of talking while it went. But so you can see on the Audible one, it says Audible next to it, but all the other ones, it's just the icon, and it saves a bunch of room if you take out the words next to it, and this is how you do it. So when you want to bookmark a page, so say I want to bookmark Google, I go and click the star, and in the name field, just delete the name. So just delete the name out of there, hit delete, and hit done, and you can see when it made that bookmark, it just puts, it's called the fave icon, it just puts the fave icon in there, and it doesn't include the text next to it. And you can fit a ton of little icons up on your bookmark menu bar instead of having just, the thing and the name and the thing and the name. And usually you can only fit about 5 or 10 before it takes up your entire screen. But if you delete the name when you are entering a new bookmark into your bookmark bar, you can have just the icons, and you can have an entire row of icons, and it's all your bookmarks. And so I thought that was really cool. Actually a really useful tip, because I do have a ton of bookmarks on my Chrome browser, and it made room for all of them. I don't need to actually click on the bookmark link up in the top. I can just see them all in my bookmark menu bar. So that is it for today's show. If you guys want to give back to the show, you guys always can. If you go over to patreon.com/WeakerTech, patreon.com/WeakerTech, for as little as $1 a month or anything like that, a candy bar a month, you guys can give back to the show. It is all really appreciated, really helps out. But as always, I love you all. The show is always going to be free, because that's just the way it needs to be, I want to thank everyone over at WLMNradio.com for all their tips, advice, and also for streaming me on their site. I want to thank Audible.com. Again, if you guys want to check out Audible, head out to audibletrial.com/WeakerTech. And I also want to thank lynda.com. Lynda.com is another one of my sponsors for today's show. I'll get into more details about that later, but if you guys want to check out lynda.com, you can head over to my website and go to the sponsors page, or if you're watching this on my website, right above here, there's a little box for Lynda. you can get a 7-day free trial. They do a bunch of really, really cool online tutorials. And so what it is, basically, if you want to learn something, and it's all really professional. So they get professionals to come in and teach what their expertise is. So if you want to learn how to code, if you want to learn how to write an iPhone app, if you want to learn how to use Photoshop, head on over to lynda.com and check them out, because they're a bunch of, just tutorial videos run by professionals. That's pretty much how I can describe it. I'll talk more about them later. They're going to be next week's actual sponsor, but I kind of want to talk about them. So go on and click that link up above if you're watching on my site and check them out. You'll get a 7-day free trial if you do click on that link. So why not? Again, a 7-day free trial, a 30-day free trial to audible.com. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's show. I hope you guys learned a little something. I hope it was fun, interactive. I love you guys. You guys in the chat room are great. You guys are some of my favorites. And thank you, Roger, for calling in. That was really fun. So I hope next week we get even more callers, because that just, it adds to the show. It lets me know what you guys want to hear about too. And so just to recap, WeagerTech.com. Head on over there to find out all of my information, see all of my videos and stuff like that. If you guys want to email me, Mike@WeagerTech.com, give me feedback, give me tips, give me something to work with for next week's show. I'd be really excited to take those. I've had a lot of questions on there, which I love. Give me all your questions, but also give me some tips. Teach me something, guys. I love it. I love sharing the knowledge that you guys have. So I will see you guys next week, but until then, tech on.